And welcome to Rise and Fire Bets. My name is Chris Exusion. You can find me at Chris Ebom on Twitter, and I appreciate you watching on Twitter, on the YouTube page. Remember to subscribe. And the madness is going on this week, not just on the hardwood, but on the golf course too. We're at a very difficult course at Valspar Copperhead. A lot of moving parts for the most part. I get it. Maybe you had Akshay Bhatia, you had Hadwin, who was very popular. Brian Harmon. There were definitely some popular names that dropped off the board, but that's okay. We're not perfect, right? So we got live bets coming in this weekend, and I got special guests on. Sia Najad, CBS Sports, Win Daily Sports. He does it all, and he crushes it in the live game as well. Sia, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Glad to be back on the show, actually. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the chalky guys that dropped off, but we know that every single week, these chalky guys are kind of like a 50-50 proposition. So it's really no surprise. What surprises me, and Chris, forgive me if you liked this guy, but
Okay.
I can't let it go.
Sure.
Why in the hell are people playing Brian Harmon? I legit, it almost like makes me angry. I don't get it.
Well, he's like a short course specialist, I think.
Yes, but he sucks. He hasn't been good in a long time.
I know, but he pops once in a while, and I think I'm not a Brian Harmon guy either, but I mean, like I know like people are like, oh, short hitter, like they take their chance. It's like they have a short memory. They don't realize like what's been going on with him. He's been not good of late. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you with that. I think it's just you're pulling straws at this point with guys that are higher salary guys, and it's just like I don't know, just not good leverage.
I think that's the mistake people are making is they feel like they have to grab a guy in a certain salary range, and you really don't have to do that.
No, not at all. There's definitely a lot of leverage points you can do. And speaking of leverage, anyway, the leaderboard here. I'm going to bring up the leaderboard right now. 1 second. Let's see. All right, here we go. We're going to get it right. All right, so we got the live leaderboard over here. It's pretty mixed. Adam Shank had a nice little run today for the most part. 1 second, let me swing around. He had a good run for the most part. Tommy Fleetwood charging a little bit, and Spieth just hanging around. JT kind of not taking advantage of a weak field. This is a spot where I took him for one and done because I was like, you know what, I'm not going to use him for the big events because I just don't feel comfortable with them. So I threw him out there. What are your thoughts about that in general for one and done?
Yeah, I mean, my one and done was Tommy Fleetwood for the first cut pod, and I actually had Scotty Scheffler last week, so that was a nice, cool $4.5 million.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And by the way, I'm not like a one and done guy. I do one for the first cut, but I'm actually not in a single one and done for money. Like, excuse me, I didn't join Pat Mayo's or Rick Gaiman's. And it's not because I don't like it. It's just because I'm so leveraged in other places week to week with golf, with DFS and betting, that I just knew I wasn't going to be able to put my best effort there. As far as Justin Thomas, I think he's fine for this tournament, but the thing is, he's a guy I completely faded in DFS. Actually, no, I have him in one lineup, like a $5 lineup that I just kind of went stars and scrubs with. But the long and short of it on Justin Thomas is I just don't trust him. And so I understand this is a smaller purse, but for me, I would have gone with somebody with perhaps less upside in people's eyes, but certainly more, I don't know, more reliable. And that's like guys like Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose. Like that's who I liked at this course. I wanted somebody with experience that was going to be able to navigate the tough conditions. Justin Thomas can do all of those things. I just haven't seen much from him lately, and he can kind of go off the rails too. And I expected him to go off the rails maybe a little bit easier than some guys like Tommy Fleetwood, for example.
Yeah, it's just kind of tough because the ball striking's there. The putter is always the question. His around the green game is excellent. So it was a spot where I felt like, so I'm in a couple one and dones. I'm in 3 of them. So I got the Mayo one that I'm in. I didn't have Scheffler last week. I had Victor Hovland. And the reason was that because I had Scheffler for waste management and he won that. So I didn't have Scheffler in the bag at that point. So I went Hovland. That was good. So he ended up being in that like top 5 ballpark for the most part. But yeah, I mean,
He's still in it. JT's very much in it. I mean, there's no question about it. He could win this thing.
Yeah. And do you, off the top of your head at all, do you remember anything going on for Saturday as far as the weather goes? Was there anything that kind of stood out for you?
It's a good question. I'll try to investigate it now. But I mean, my understanding is that I don't have an educated answer to that. But I certainly think that probably the afternoon is going to have more issues than the morning like we typically see.
Yeah. I mean, that's like kind of like the, like if you're going to pick one right off the bat, the AM guys are going to beat it up the course, and the PM it's going to be dry, and the green should be a little faster and everything like that. So I totally get that. But we're looking for live bets here, see. Right now on DraftKings, let me bring that up. So we're on DraftKings right now. And right now we have top 20 and winner outright. We're a little early for the show. Maybe in about an hour or two, we might get matchups.
Mm-hmm.
We could always tweet out something later for that aspect. Remember, guys, if you have questions, more than happy to shoot. Love to respond on that on the fly. But looking at this board here, the funny thing with golf is we always kind of poo-poo like a 2-1, 3-1 bet, because it's like, when you're betting football, you're always betting that -110, and that's just like the norm. Imagine if you got like 3-1 on like the Giants over, like in a game, like something crazy. Like you would never see anything like that. So then when we see like a 3-1, we're like, oh man, the value's not there. But cashing a bet 3-1 is real solid regardless of the sport.
Oh no, I totally agree. I mean, the problem becomes when you have that bet, like what we've had with John Rahm, like a month ago, where it would be Friday afternoon and he's already 3-1 with like at least 36, if not 54 holes to play. And it's like, man, I understand John Rahm's good, but there's like 20 quality golfers right behind him. We know John Rahm, Tiger Woods, you name it, can kind of plummet. But in this case, it's a little different because there's not a lot of talent at the top. So guys like Jordan Spieth and Tommy Fleetwood, they in particular, Justin Thomas too, they really do have a built-in edge because they've kind of been there before. Like, sure. I like Adam Schenk. I like Kramer Hickok. I actually have them both in one lineup, which, by the way, not to tout myself, but it just coming up organically.
No, sure. I love to hear
it. I wish I had this in the 33 or the 100 SC, but in the $12, I guess it's called the Albatross single entry,
$12, right? Yeah.
There you go. I'm in first place there, and it's a lineup for 2,000. I mean, that's a
big hit. That's a nice little hit there.
Listen, I mean, we'll see what happens on Sunday.
I know. Yeah, it looks good now, right?
It's nice to be at the party with a 6 of 6, and obviously guys like Schenk and Hickok, I expect them to drop. But in that lineup as well is Jordan Spieth and Tommy Fleetwood. So I mean, I'm kind of owning the top of the board. But my point is those guys, Schenk and Hickok, whether you're talking outright or DFS, like those guys, they're probably going to fall. I don't see a lot of guys from the chase pack emerging to chase down Jordan Spieth or Tommy Fleetwood. Not saying one of those two is going to win. But the good news, if you're taking a shorter odds guy at the Valspar versus, let's say, the Players, is there's not a lot of talent to chase these guys down and surpass them over the next 2 days. So I think there's a handful of guys for us to consider from a live bet standpoint, just on a value proposition. Like, for example, I liked Wyndham Clark going into the tournament. He's one of my outrights. I don't know that I like him at plus. Guy. What's that?
He was a pretty popular guy at Windy C this week. Yeah,
exactly. Sure. I don't know that I like him at plus 1,400 because the reality is he's still really not playing that well. He played great today, but a lot of that was around the green. Listen, I trust his ball striking. I'm not worried about a lack of approach game or off the tee in the last 2 days. But I don't think plus 1,400 is a great number, but it's something I'm moderately interested in. JT Poston at plus 3,000 I think is interesting. I'll tell you a guy that actually mentioned on the first cut with Rick on Monday. Actually, Kramer Hickok, I did mention him on the first cut as well. But nice. Matt Wallace, I thought in the 6K range from a DFS standpoint was at least interesting because we knew we were going to see tough conditions. And that's where I expect him to flourish if his game is back. And it looks like his game is kind of back. So at plus 4,000, I think that's interesting. Ben Martin at 130-1. I'm a Ben Martin guy, so that intrigues me a little bit as well. But there's not a lot I love. But those names that I mentioned outside of just taking Jordan Spieth, I don't think Jordan Spieth at 5-1 is terrible, and that's not something you'll ever hear me say. I'll almost never, ever even consider taking a guy 5-1, especially Jordan Spieth, who I think can be so erratic. But I did like Jordan Spieth coming into this tournament because I felt like he was going to keep it in the fairway because you're clubbing down for the most part, and we know he can get dialed in with the approach and that the putter can get super hot. So I actually think these guys at the top, Spieth in particular, I don't think that's a terrible number.
Yeah, I mean, well, Spieth, like you talk about hitting the fairways and everything, even when he doesn't hit the fairways, I feel like he gets pretty creative and he still hits those greens regardless. Like good drives, if you will. That's like kind of the stat I'm kind of, leading with. He's a guy that, like no matter what, he gets himself on the green, whether he's in the parking lot or he's in the fairway. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But you brought up a guy that I'm going to click on for an outright that I like right now, and that's JT Poston. Something pretty interesting. PGA tout, he always puts out those great previews for the courses and everything like that. So I was looking at something regarding, course history for round 3 and 4. And, Rick Rungood, this is our guy. You do the
Yeah.
show on Mondays for DFS. Great guy, great content, all that good
Mhm.
stuff. I use his stuff. Recommend you guys do as well. JT Poston in 3rd and 4th rounds in courses that, kind of do, replicate this: Harbortown, Sawgrass, River Highlands. He ranks actually 2nd in the entire field since 2019 in round 3 and 4 play.
Wow.
So in
Mhm.
12 rounds, which is really high, of 3rd and 4th round plays, he's 2nd in the entire field in pretty much strokes gained total, and he's positive in all strokes gained categories. At 30 to 1, and he has won before. I can't think of the tournament off the top of my head right now that he has won, but I
Mhm.
remember him being in the winner's circle at least last year or the year before that. That he has won. It is hard to win in the golf tour unless you're Scotty Scheffler or like one of these elites. But JT Poston has been fantastic with these course comps. He's playing really well. He is in the hunt, and to have a guy that has somewhat of a win equity in this kind of lower field, JT Poston at 30 to 1, I really like.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good number. What's funny is yesterday that number was insane. I believe, and I think it was Spencer Aguiar that tipped me off to this,
Mhm.
otherwise known as Tee Off Sports. That
Yeah.
JT Poston number was 100 to 1 yesterday. But
Wow.
that doesn't mean 30 to 1 isn't great now. I mean, I actually
No.
think you're
Yeah.
right that Poston is one of those handful of guys that could absolutely flourish over the next 2 rounds and chase these guys down.
Yeah, so that's kind of the guy that I'm going to click. Don't get me wrong. If you want to take Tommy Fleetwood, I think Tommy Fleetwood's definitely a very good spot. I mean, 7 to 1, he is due to win. I mean, we say it all the time, but I mean, like, he has been playing really well. That 7 to 1 number is pretty good. And of course, I mean, I can't blame him for taking Spieth because he's Spieth, but if you want to get a little more value, that Fleetwood number is good. But I'm going to click 30 to 1 Poston. I think he's got a shot. I think it'd be a good sweat for Sunday. But I wanted to look in the top 20 market. There's a couple guys that I was looking at that kind of, brought to my eye. I know he hasn't played well. Everyone kind of poo-pooed him this week, but Sam Burns plus 130. He's at the even cut mark right now. He only needs to gain about 2 or 3 strokes on the field to get into the top 20. He got
Mhm.
2 days to do it. A guy that plays really well at this course. He had a couple like double bogeys today that kind of went kind of haywire. But besides that, he hasn't been playing that bad. What are your thoughts about Burns this week?
Yeah, I like him. I know he was having some issues with the driver and perhaps the swing as well over the
Mhm.
last few tournaments, but it does look like he's on the right path here. And again, it's not going to take much for him to pass a ton of guys with just, we don't need vintage Sam Burns. We need the Sam Burns that's going to generally keep it in the fairway and just be
Mhm.
dialed in everywhere else. So I actually think that's a really smart number. I think plus 130 makes a lot of sense. What did you say his number was at? He's at
He's
even?
at even right now, so he's going to play early on Saturday, so you should get the best conditions if you're going to
Yeah.
go based off of like being at the course early and getting after it before. I mean personally, I got one guy checking in right now. He's giving me a little weather report here. He said 6-mile-an-hour wind, 6 a.m., picking up around 10. So then there might be some rain as well. So there might be a little delay. Who knows what happens? You have to see what
Yeah.
happens when it comes down to the tournament, but it sounds like the AM might be able to be a little bit more gettable. And if you're giving me a guy that's a horse for the course, if you will, Sam
Mhm.
Burns, and I'm getting plus money at this point, and he's in the hunt for a top 20, I
Yeah.
think you kind of have to take that. Is there anybody else that you're kind of looking at in like a top 20 market?
Yeah, it's interesting. As I kind of like peruse this sort of range, that plus 140, plus 180
Mhm.
range, Ben Martin is interesting to me. Again, I'm kind of a Ben Martin guy at plus
Right.
180. SH Kim at plus 220.
Yeah.
There was something about him today though that kind of threw me off, and I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, he really gained all his strokes around the green today, which whatever. Like we don't need to like narrow this down to just what happened in round 2, but just
Sure.
something to take note of. But I think SH Kim at plus 220 is interesting. Nick Taylor kind of tailed off a little bit today, but Nick Taylor at plus 280, I think he could catch up to a lot of people. That's probably about it. I'm trying to actually, now that you mentioned it, scroll back up to like that plus 130, 125 range.
All right, here you go.
Yeah, nobody. I mean, Lingworth is interesting. His ball striking is like totally
He's like the
legit.
short course master, right? So I mean
Yeah.
that's kind of his wheelhouse.
And he proved himself last week as a guy that's going to hang around. And with this being kind of a, a bad field. I believe in round 2 he was the best ball striker, for the record. Like off the tee, approach, combo. I think Lingmuth literally led the field, and on approach, I'm pretty sure he led the field too. So I think he's kind of a sneaky option, top 20 at plus 130.
So a guy you brought up was another guy that I was going to consider was SH Kim. He's a guy that I think can, definitely do well. He had an eagle today. He had a double bogey. So, he is capable of scoring at the end of the day. If you look at what he has done, I'm going to bring this up right now on Data Golf over here. So what SH Kim has done, he's been positive all the way around. Not even the putter's been that good. The first round, his approach was great. He almost lost a stroke on putting, got even to that. Still tee to green, excellent. Tee to green, excellent again. And then his approach has been excellent. So the ball striking's been there. The putter's been okay. He could be due for a spike putting performance. And if you look at what he has done in the recent, here, I'll show it here. In the recent third and fourth rounds in general, like if you're looking at the Arnold Palmer, what he did in the third and fourth round, his putting was up a stroke and a half. So if you're looking maybe a possible opportunity to spike the putter at the end of the weekend, I like SH Kim. And if he's spiking with the putter, then I love him for T20. I think really the plays that I'm kind of looking at, that if I'm saying my best bets this week, I'm going SH Kim for that plus 220 for the top 20. And I'm throwing JT Post in that 30-1 because I think he has a real shot of winning it this week. And I know a couple guys that got into that 100-1 number like yesterday or whenever that was, but I think 31's fantastic, especially he can contend here and he's been playing well. So 30-1's good there. But SH Kim, I think he's due for one of those spike putting days, and he could happen Saturday or Sunday. And if he does that, the ball striking's there, and T20 for 2-1 on your money, I think that's a great spot to be in.
Yeah, I agree. And the more I look at David Lingmuth, the more I like the top 20 play as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think if you really wanted to just kind of go for it, you'd have to build a theory around this. But he's 80-1 to win it all. And the theory that you'd have to build around that is that he's going to go out early enough. I mean, he's in 20th place. I think, what is that, 2 under? So he's not going to go out super early by any means. But, you'd almost have to hope that he stays in it. And if they finish on Sunday, which hopefully this doesn't get rained out tomorrow to any degree, but if they finish on Sunday, that maybe the conditions are really bad late in the afternoon, maybe he gets in the house, obviously early, he posts a nice number, and then guys like Spieth and Fleetwood just can't manage the wind. And so they drop a couple shots and Lingmuth gets into a playoff or something like that. The way he's striking it, and the fact that Lingmuth is, sort of this weird phenomenon where he hasn't really existed in our consciousness for a few years now. Sure. Like he could be the Brian Harman that people think Brian Harman is. That could actually be David Lingmuth. And so I just think at 80-1, or what was it, plus 130 to top 20. Yeah. I think if I was going to go down the board there, that's where I would go.
So what's his number right now? He's at currently. What's his number?
80-1.
No, I'm saying his score. Sorry, I apologize. His score.
Oh, my bad. Let me double check that. But he's in 20th, which I believe, it's 2 under. He's 2
okay.
Under.
So
this is 3 under today.
This is the same situation I went into last week with Cam Davis. So Cam Davis has been a guy that's been struggling a lot. Lingworth actually had a good showing at the Players, so that helps. But a guy that you can actually get value on, that's actually in the hunt, that's right there. I think that's a great spot to point, because I think the books get a little bit slow with these other guys that they don't realize. Like they know the big names, and they, the Scheffler would be down 4 strokes and only be like 3-1 to win the tournament, which is outrageous. But I mean, like it's like these things happen, and then like they know these other guys, but these guys that you and I see every week, and we live and die with this PGA stuff. This is like what we do. Like no one knows these Adam Shanks and all these guys like the Jaegers and all them and everything. But hey, that's what we do. And it's these spots are definitely there. So everything is good.
To your point, Fleetwood was in all my lineups this week, says Beer. So I know I'm just reading it because I want to know what it says. I'm sorry for like taking over the show.
No, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
We know who this is, right? This is Phil. And
yep.
I think he can win. He's in most of my DFS lineups as well. And for the record, I do a show called The Early Wedge with Jonathan Coachman. It's in Patrick McDonald every Tuesday at 3. And I peppered Fleetwood in all my plays. I have him outright. I have him top 20. And in 2 of my 4 matchups, I actually have Fleetwood. So tournament matchups. So I had him on a DK matchup and a FanDuel matchup.
Oh, nice.
But and the Lingmuth driving. So here's the thing. Here to carry your point about some of these some of these smaller names not really getting recognized, the books not catching up quite as fast as they should, or maybe they shouldn't. Who knows? But here's the point: what if David Lingworth actually is Brian Harman? Because first of all, I think Brian Harman's been trashed for quite some time. But this conception that people have of Brian Harman, that he was like going to do well in this tournament, which is just freaking mind blowing to me. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, because I'm sure people who had Brian Harman had a lot of other good picks, but like, Brian, come on, like it's just frustrating. But the point is, if David Lingworth is Brian Harman, and if Brian Harman is Brian Harman and he is in David Lingworth's position, instead of 80-1, he'd be 50-1, right? Or maybe even like 40 or 45-1, something like that. And so the point I'm making is, if the books haven't caught up to the fact that David Lingworth is in fact what we thought Brian Harman is, well, then we're getting like 30 to 35 points of value on this guy. Absolutely. I'm not saying that makes him like the winner, but it does make him a good bet.
It's good value at the end of the day. And that's all we're really looking for in betting. Like, right. So you're finding spots with the books, because like the books clean up, right? They usually do. I mean, casino, like I worked in the casino industry for over 10 years. Wow. I mean, it's they don't build casinos off of losers. They just don't do it. Right. So it's kind of a spot where, if you can find these points where you can get these guys that aren't the names and things like that, and you're not buying into the juice of like these other guys, like the Brian Harmans that have been gaining steam, for like half a year or whatever it is. But it's just like, they can catch on to that. But when it comes down to some of these guys, we're not going to get those kind of numbers that are going to, not be favorable. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you got to try to beat the books at their own game and try to figure out something that they don't know. And that goes for really any sport. And that's why in golf, people don't get this. There's a reason why people love, like you and I love betting on golf. It's because there's an edge there, and because there's such a proliferation of different bets you can make, whether it's the top 20 market or round matchups or tournament matchups or three balls or whatever, and they do their best. But those lines aren't going to be as efficient as an NFL line. It's just the manpower isn't going to be allocated to golf like it is to NFL, and the markets aren't going to correct those lines. Even if the lines are off, the market's going to correct an NFL line immediately. That's not necessarily the case for some of these golf bets. So you got to catch that inefficiency when you see it and try to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. So if there was one play that you would like to lock in tonight, what would that play be?
I think it's David Lingworth top 20. I'm not like, I really think it's David Lingworth top 20, but if I'm looking at maybe something else, I'm trying to think of, Matt Wallace moved from 40 to 35-1. I didn't even catch that. I don't think I might throw a couple bucks on that.
It's not sure. You sprinkle a little bit. Sure.
Yeah. It's not a super high confidence play. I like your Sam Burns top 20 play. That makes a lot of sense to me. It's hard to justify an outright, but if I wanted to pick another top 20 play, sure, it would probably be, Justin Rose at plus 150 has my interest. That's probably what it would be.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me with him is his putting. I don't know if that's but he always has eagle opportunities. It always seems like he has eagle opportunities. Am I right with Justin Rose?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think that if the conditions get kind of brutal over the next 2 days with whatever rain and wind and things of that nature, I think Rose is going to manage it just fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Where is he? Was he at -1? I believe. Is that where we're at?
I think that's where he is. Yeah,
about Rose for -1.
I'll double check that, but I think
he's even. He's even. Okay,
he's even. Okay,
he's even right now, but that's still pretty close anyway. But so if you're looking that route, that's great. I'm still sticking with the SH Chem with 2-1 on your money. I think that's my top play for the week. I'm gonna sprinkle JT Poston 30-1. I think that's a good spot as well. But before you go, we got the madness going on, right? I know your thought. I see the college basketball in the background, so I get it. So what is there a play that you like that hasn't started yet as far as betting wise?
Yeah, but it's dangerous because, and I knew this when I gave out the pick this morning on the early edge, it's dangerous because sharp money is on the other side. Here's the thing though. I've been really good in college basketball since the beginning of March. I've been pretty good in golf too. And a lot of times I know where the sharp money is and I'm just fading it anyway, because I just think the analysis is wrong. In other words, I think the reason the sharp money is on a certain side is just incorrect. And I'm totally okay. And I've found myself in my best betting year. I'm not talking about 2023. I'm saying if we go back the last 12 months, And I'm just kind of ignoring that stuff to a large degree. I'm ignoring where the sharp money is. I'm kind of ignoring like just kind of the conventional wisdom. I'm trying to ignore Twitter when it comes to betting specifically. Like
Sure.
sometimes even
Yeah.
in golf, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but I'll scan past people's picks if I see an outright card, and it's not because I don't think their picks are good. It's because I feel so locked in. I don't want to like get influenced, even
Well,
if
yeah,
it's
influence at
subconscious,
the end
like
of the day, right?
influence.
Yeah.
It happened to me in DFS where I listened to somebody because I like listening to them, and they
Mhm.
mentioned a guy, and I thought to myself in that moment, I was like, "Ooh, I've liked this guy for many weeks in a row,
Right.
but I hadn't considered him here." And so
Mhm.
my thought process was, it might have been subconscious, it might have been conscious, I'm not sure, but my thought process was, "Oh shoot, I've been on this guy. I don't want to miss the boat now if he actually plays well." And I put him in a couple lineups, and those lineups are awesome, except for him because he
Yeah.
missed the cut. So I'm like, man, it's one of those things where when you
Yeah.
feel locked in, there's no reason to look elsewhere other than where you're getting the money and good. So back to the pick.
Yeah.
It is Memphis -2. It starts at 9:20 Eastern Standard Time, so we
Ooh,
have plenty of
okay.
time.
Yeah.
And they play FAU, as everybody knows. They won more than 30 games this season, but they played
Mhm.
in a very weak conference.
Yep.
Memphis played in a much better conference and played a lot of competition that they beat, including Houston. They beat a number of teams. I'll list some of them off just from the last 30 days. I don't have the list here actually, but they have been really good, not only in conference, but out of conference. The matchup appears to be tough for them. The same was said with Utah State over Missouri yesterday. And by the way, I
Yeah.
was on the Missouri side where a lot of the sharps were on the Utah State side. I see a similar situation here where the level of competition for Memphis was just so much better than FAU. And FAU has a bunch of shooters and they can knock down a lot of threes, but they haven't seen the type of defense or offense that Memphis can present. So the line, I think, opened at like 2.5 or 3. It's already down to it's all the way down, I should say, to 1.5, meaning there's like 1.5 points of sharp money that's like just put this line down to like almost like nearly a pick 'em.
Yeah.
I still have faith in my pick though. I'm taking Memphis.
With the line movements, I feel like there's two sides to line movements, right? Because I feel like there are sharps that do bet lines a certain way to get their lines. Like they have enough action where they can put on like 8K for a game or whatever it is, enough to move a line like a point and a half in their way. And then they decide to like double up, and it's just kind of trying to get like an edge on the books. But I mean, it could go either way, public money's moving it here or there. I kind of like Memphis too. I might play him now since I think you like them a lot for the most part. And then I got Bob coming in here. He's like, "Do I take FDU right now?" Good idea. They're like tied at They're tied right now. I think
It's
it's
halftime.
Purdue.
Oh, I'd
Oh,
love to know what the number is. I'm not looking at the number,
all
but
right. Well,
certainly.
let me look real quick because since I'm on here right now, let me see what they are currently at right now. I'm gonna probably say
Oh, there's 8 minutes left, so it's not halftime. So Purdue's
oh,
up
okay.
1 with 8 minutes left.
Okay, so right now,
That's crazy.
let's see. So currently, oh man, where's it at? I'm not even finding
I
it.
can I can look it up as well.
Yeah, look it up real quick because I'm curious what we're at. Okay,
It
so
is Oh, wow, it's actually not showing right now. They must have
yeah, I
taken
don't
it
see
off
it
the
showing
board.
right now
It's
either.
not
Yeah,
showing on DraftKings.
yeah, I currently don't see it right now. But if the he says +6.5 tied with 8 minutes. I don't know. I mean,
That's right on
take
the
it,
line.
take it what it's worth. Those one seeds typically kind of run away with it at the
That's
end
right.
at some points where the town prevails. So I would stick away with it personally. Um, the game I actually like tonight, I like the over in the TCU Arizona State game. It
Oh,
was
interesting.
I got it over 141.5. It's been going 142, 141 back and forth. But Hurley has these guys playing pretty well. And I'm not an ASU fan by any means necessary. I'm a U of A guy, as you can see. And that was a nightmare game yesterday. I don't want to
I
get
had
into
him
that.
far in my bracket. So my
Yeah.
bracket was like busted. Well, I have like a few brackets, but I think I didn't even bother checking. I have Arizona winning it in one, and I think I had them in the finals in another.
Yeah,
So
it was
whoops.
it was a weird game plan because like they obviously no one wanted to shoot, which was weird because the whole season everybody shared the ball and shot and kind of took over on their own parts. And they just fed ball the ball the entire time, and it was too much overkill, and it was a bad spot. But anyway, ASU TCU over 141.5. Hurley's guys, they do like to run it up and shoot and just free shooting constantly, and they play hard for them. So, and when it comes down to it, they're going to take a lot of shots. And I think if they are going to hit a few of them, if they're going to get into a flow, I really like the over in this game. I think they're going to be shooting a boatload of shots. They're going to try and make it a shootout. It's the only way they're going to have a chance of winning this game. It's not going to be defensively because they're not a great defensive team. So if they're going to win, they're going to have to play super aggressive. And if they're going to be aggressive, then TCU is going to get a lot of opportunities to score as well. So I like the over 141.5 there. So
I like it.
That's where I am there. But Sia, I wanted to thank you again for coming on. Always great talking with you. I believe this is the second time I've had you on here, but I like having you on here as much as possible, but it's always great to talk with you regardless.
Yeah, thanks for having me. As I see, it looks like FDU just hit a 3. So they're up 2 now, which is pretty great. But no, Chris, I love having you on. I love that you do this on a Friday. And I wish matchups were out because that would be fun to kind of consider too. But like you said, I may tweet a couple matchups out myself. And yeah, they're not out. Oh, wait, actually, hold on real quick. Yeah, matchups are actually out.
We got currently something up? Let me see.
Yeah, on DraftKings, I'm seeing them.
Okay.
I can't bet on DraftKings, but whatever.
Okay. I do see matchups right now.
Yeah.
You know what? Here, before we go, let's just swing this around real quick. We got a couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'm
glancing at it, and there's nothing I love. I gotta kind of pour over the metrics, but I kind of already done that to a degree. I was trying to pinpoint Lingmuth, but he's minus 145 against Michael Thompson, which that's a lot of juice there.
Well, I'll tell you what. I talked about those numbers with JT Poston for the 3rd and 4th rounds. You're getting plus money with him against Taylor Moore.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Maybe you get a little plus money on your side based on those little quick metrics we looked at for the most part. But it'll be interesting to see. You got Shank over here who's in the lead, and then so he's plus money, so that's always a scary thing.
Yeah.
But very interesting. So I'm gonna look at those as well for the most part. We'll see what we come up with later on in the Twitter universe. But hey, you can find Sia, CBS Sports. He's on the show on Mondays with Rick and for the DFS every week. He's doing stuff with the Early Edge with the coach, who's a great guy. Great info you guys bring with that as well. And of course, Win Daily Sports, you guys show with Spence and who else is on there with you?
Joel. It's me, Spencer, and Joel, and sometimes we have a guest as well. Oh, and David Byleski is on with us as well. So yeah, that's every Tuesday night at 8:00 on the YouTube channel. It's actually a really, really fun show. Chris, you're sometimes in that chat, right?
What? Oh yeah, I'm in the chat in there sometimes too. You guys do the draft and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great interaction with everybody. It's awesome. So yeah, catch all that info. You can't miss Sia. He's doing stuff all week. Great info all the time. Thanks again. You can find him at Sia in the Shot on Twitter. And Sia, let's catch some bets this weekend. Let's have some fun, right?
Let's do it. I can't wait.
Man, let's rise and fire.